The Ashling Irish Centre has been up and running now since 1996. We're a local community centre based in Yonkers. Our goal is to help Irish people make an adjustment to living in the United States and to help them in many ways. Fran Browner, who was employed at the centre, at the senior group on the Friday night, she had a creative writing class. One day she said to them that they would do a project called I Remember. So she started with pen in hand and they started to remember different things about their lives growing up in Ireland.
So one of the first assignments I gave them was I Remember. And I just told them it was a free write. We were going to write for 15 minutes. Keep the hands moving was the instruction. And don't worry about punctuation, spelling, nothing. So I always did the assignment with them. So I'm writing away and then I just looked around the table and everybody was avidly writing their little bit on their jotter. And all I could hear was the tick-tock of the clock. And I said, wow, this is like every teacher's dream. And that ignited a huge interest around the table. And everybody started telling what boat they came on. Oh, I came on the SS America, the SS New York, the SS Washington. And I'm sitting there going, there were that many boats.
We came on the boat Corinthia. Man, it was a holiday that I never had before. I learned about 7 and 7 for the first time. It was great. I remember pulling into New York, passing the Statue of Liberty, and thought it was just fantastic. But I was lonely getting off the ship. We made so many friends, you would think we were together for months.
I think the first time when Fran asked me, I didn't want to go back there. And I remember writing a poem instead of, I figured I'd write something. And I wrote a poem, about leprechauns living in my closet. And they're the ones who mess up my apartment.
So as well as people from the Irish senior group, we have people from many, many places, all the way from Philadelphia and Miami, New York, Connecticut. This is the story of immigration. It's an immigrant story. It's the story of people who left Ireland, left their families, left very young. Some people were only 16 and they came to New York or whatever part of America they came to, and what wonderful successful lives they made for themselves. I had a woman that just told me today, she said that her pillow was wet in the morning from crying. She was so lonely when she came first. So it was how the Irish stuck together, how they helped each other.
Well, I come from an Ireland today. I represent an Ireland that's very different to the Ireland being written about in this book. I come from an Ireland of prosperity and of peace, and we're very grateful for that. And in recognising that, we know that without the contribution of all of those generations who left our shores in different times to come to the United States, find a home and build their lives for themselves and never forget, we wouldn't be where we are today, because that's the key point. The core concept here is I remember. And from our point of view, you never forgot. That wonderful generation of people who made, in many ways, today's Ireland possible.
No matter what, you're always an immigrant. This is not the land of your birth. You have left the land of your birth. You have left the people that you grew up with. You have raised children who didn't know their aunts and uncles and their grandparents as well as they would if they had lived in the same communities. So to me, that was a high price to pay. To have lived without your immediate family all of your life.
One of the things that struck me about living in apartment buildings in New York was brought home to me by my mother. When she asked me one day, she said, "Sean, do you know the people that live next door to you?" And I said, "No." And I said, "What's really scary about it is it doesn't bother me too much that I don't know. Even though these were people who were sleeping and living their entire lives, sometimes a couple of yards away from you, and you didn't know who they were." It really brought something very interesting to me, home to me, because in Ireland, everybody knew everybody.
Ireland is always there someplace, absolutely. But my job is here. My job is here. And what does this country give you? This country gives you what you want, what you are able to do. Anything you do, this country will take care of you.
My heart was full of hope. I have lived in America, I've lived in New York for 50 years, and every time I walk outside my door, there is a sense of possibility in America that I don't think is anywhere else on the face of the earth. Especially, of course, in New York. Someone once told me that New York is a place of superlatives. It has the very best and the very worst, the most beautiful and the most ugly, the richest and the poorest.
At that time, Gaelic Park was pretty prominent. It ran down a little bit later on. But they used to have, they'd have 8,000 to 10,000 people there every Sunday. And they had great games because all the Irish guys from Ireland was immigrating here, like well-known names from Kerry and Cork and Dublin, and they were playing there. As a matter of fact, we had a guy from Sligo, his name was Naas O'Dowd. He was probably the best player in Connacht, and he was playing here when I came. So it was great entertainment and great games, and afterwards there was always music. A live band would take over, and that's when you'd have a lot of fun.